Good afternoon and welcome to Gunner Shot. Uh, Today we are doing this out of time, away from the normal time, for the simple reason that I have a commitment in the evening. So I thought let me go ahead with this open house today. The issue which we're gonna discuss three issues today. The first issue is we'll see what are the risks of cake cutting with China. Second thing, we'll see the issue of Xi Jinping versus the PLA. And then yesterday, uh, a prime minister had, not yesterday, day before really, had a meeting with Professor Yunark. So, what are the outcomes of that? And what's the message which has gone? And what are the issues involved? Which, apart from the normal rhetoric, what are the issues which we really have to focus on? We'll discuss all this. But of course, the whole thing is being overshadowed by Trump and his tariffs. A lot of people are reacting many ways. I have my own views. Uh, well, I'll talk of that tomorrow, maybe. Tomorrow in the evening, we get time. I'll talk of that separately. Okay. So, yeah, as Akash has said, the tariff war. You want, at the end, I'll make that as the fourth topic. No harm. I mean, whichever way. Okay. Let's go with the, plan which I had in mind. And then we'll talk of this whole thing. What are the risks of cutting cake with China? Right? Why am I talking about this? The fact is that, in the recent past, there's a lot of talk of India China thaw and resumption of trade and aircraft, flights, all that. Fine. Plus, few days back was the 75th anniversary of establishing relations between China and India. So our foreign minister and the ambassador here went and cut a cake. You see the pretty big cake. A lot of bonhomie and all that. I've been seeing a lot of articles in various Chinese media about why India and China should get together and face USA very squarely. Okay. They want us on their side. But I have given you all the issues why we have a problem. The border issue is unsolved, and they don't want to talk of that. They want to talk of everything except the border issue. I've also said, given you a lot of details about how the Chinese scholars look at us and how the Chinese scholars are shaping an opinion within China about India, right? Uh, and how they're not going to allow technology to come in, but they want us as trade partners because what's happened with Trump is very clear. Uh, just about 27% tariff on us and 54% on tariff on them is a big amount. They have to, though China has slapped off 34% return tariff and all that, they have to come back to India. It's required both for USA and China. I'll talk of it tomorrow. Right. Now, with the tariff war having started and globalization era is over, China will come very strongly at us now. They'll seek us out even more. And this is where we need to be, you know, we have to be taking intelligent steps. Okay, so I can say, okay, we should not allow that chap to invest and this and that. But I'm now going to take you on a bit of a tangent because, again, like you say, I do things pretty academically to some extent. I saw this article, right? I saw this article uh, written by Liu Zhongyi. Liu Zhongyi is an academic. He's in the Shanghai Institute of Studies, International Studies. It's a leading think tank, and he's an India expert. And he's been to India many times. Okay, and he writes The Indian ambassador to China once asked us, "What have you given to India? What has China given to India?" That's a pretty strong statement. And he narrates in this article that, look, uh, there was an event where he met the Indian ambassador there in Beijing. And in the course of the discussion, the ambassador asked him, "What has China given to India?" I mean, this is talking culturally. So this fellow got quite shocked. And then, of course, I don't know what the discourse was at that time, but he wrote this article after that. And in this article, he's written a lot about many things. Okay. And this lot of many things is what I'm going to discuss with you people. I mean, first and foremost, let me give you the basic things which he has written. He's gone and said, yeah, he says, though the relations between the two countries is pretty normal, uh, China should have no great expectations from India. So that reiterates itself now also. He's saying, look, let's not expect too much from India. But now they will expect too much from India or they'll woo India. I'm very clear. Now, he's gone on to say that in the past 60 years, now it's not anymore 2, 3, 4, 5 years, 60 years. He says 60 years, India has formed a distorted and perverted understanding of China. But China acha hai, India has to understand us. That's the thing. And India makes false narratives about China. And India's misconceptions about China continue to spread in its country, poisoning the hearts of the people. Now, what is different from India and people? So, which India is he referring to? Is he referring to the government or the people? He says, if the government was not there, we'll be happy with China, you and I. That's a big question mark, and we'll have to think. And then, as Indians go to the world, they spread this word. They spread this to the world that about the bad news about China. Little realizing bad news about China doesn't have to be spread by India. They spread it themselves. Okay, and it says all this is not because of the conflict of interest between India and China, not geopolitical. He says this is because the two countries have different worldviews, different historical views, and different strategic cultural relations. And then he insinuates Hindu nationalism has promoted the spread of misconceptions about China. So now he's looking at something cultural. And I think we need to examine this cultural business because China takes great pride in saying that it's a civilizational state. But China refuses to believe that India is a civilizational state too. And culture is only Chinese, not Indian. But we'll talk of that. I'll talk of that a little ahead. Now, then he narrates an incident. Then he narrates an incident. He says in September 1962, Mao Zedong was talking to the people around him and in a group. And he says, look, I taught for 10 days and 10 nights. I don't know why Nehru came, this is in 62, came to mess with us. Why is he messing with us by doing forward posture, and all that? And he says there's a lack of mutual trust. This was Mao Zedong doing loud thinking. There's a lack of mutual trust between India and China, lack of understanding. And he says lack of understanding of the Indian brain circuit, the way Indian thinking is going on. And then he says to make India-China relations healthy, it is necessary to strengthen mutual understanding and recognition between the two countries. This is September. It's as if, he says, no, we need to do something more and help each other and all. Now, this is what is being projected about Mao Zedong as he thought in September 62 to these people internally, because everyone doesn't know the history. So what this fellow writes is history. He is poisoning people within. I mean, we have to understand that. But then he fails to mention that within a matter of how many? 1 month, Mao invaded India. Okay. So where's this nonsense of Mao and his thinking and strategy and greatness and all that nonsense? So when you read all these follows between the line, you get to understand all these think tanks there. All these think tank guys who write everyone are writing the communist line. They're not, they're thinking as communism. Communism is the watchword on which they're thinking. So that's something which we need to be very clear of. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll talk of culture, civilizational hegemony, superiority. What is this Chinese culture? All these things we'll talk of. So let's talk of culture and let's talk of, both are civilizational states. And I agree with what our commander said. What has China given to India? Nothing. Zero. Through history. First and foremost, both these civilizations didn't have a connect because of Tibet. Tibet was the buffer between the two. So far, so good. And history is this clear, which this chap also, Liu Xiongyu also writes, that people from China came here. Same, two guys. Okay, Fahian and Xuanhang. Both came. They went around, they came to Nalanda. If you go to Nalanda, there's a Chinese pavilion where the chap's statue is. And he took back a lot of writings from here and went to educate themselves. Okay. He didn't come with any culture here. Chinese culture never came to India. There's no recorded history of this. It is the Indian culture which has gone there. And it is the Indian religions which have gone there. They didn't have any religion. Of course, they had Confucius, all that. But the fact is, Confucian teaching didn't come here. They were cooking all the way there. It is from here people went. And then he says, great thing. Look, Chinese people have open hearts and open minds. We accept all religions like Buddhism and Islam and all that. My left foot, what do they do now? They have not accepted. It is their forefathers who have accepted. Today they had accept no one. In fact, they're signifying the Buddhism and Islam there. Signification of religion. I'll talk of that a little later. So, religions went from here and were used. Even now, Buddha is revered in many parts of China other than Tibet. In fact, why there? It's all across Asia. So, what is the civilizational superiority which these fellows are talking of? Now they are talking suddenly, what is the civilizational superiority which these chaps are talking of? Are this global civilizational initiative of Xi Jinping. We all know he's taken initiatives like the first he did with the BRI, then he spoke of the Development Initiative. Now he's speaking of civilizational initiative. Then in between he spoke of security initiatives. Now these are their superiority. See, Xi Jinping wants a global civilizational initiative, okay, which will promote happiness in the world and togetherness and this and that. I mean, the global civilizational institute has nothing to do with the Chinese civilization. It has everything to do with Sinocentric world order, which this fellow Xi Jinping wants to establish. There's nothing altruistic about it. We are one globe, one civilization, and all one mankind. All is fine. As far they also parrot this one mankind, one globe, and all that nonsense. But the fact remains that in this they want everyone to accept Chinese superiority. Why should we? Culturally, actually, if you see, we are superior to them. I'm very clear about it. So I've not spoken on these lines so far, but I'm clear about it. And then the question comes, what is Chinese culture? What is Chinese culture? Does China have a culture today? China had a culture. They had Confucianism, they had civilization, they had Taoism. All isms they had, fine. But all of them got destroyed by Mao. Mao threw all this to the winds. He destroyed religion completely. He destroyed the Chinese way of life. He brought the communist way of life. He, after all, his great leap forward and the cultural revolution, the great leap forward, 45 million people have supposed to have died. It's a man-made famine. Complete culture, all the books, everything, he just destroyed whatever he could lay his hands on and replaced it with the communist culture. So Chinese culture is basically what? Communist culture. Whom are we fooling? Okay. And that culture they want to now put on religions, which are civilizational in nature. They want to topo it on Islam, they want to topo it on Buddhism. And these chaps talk nonsense. And we are dealing with these guys to cut cakes and do trading. They'll kill us. And if we are naive to believe what they're going to sell to us, they'll only sell snake oil to us. Okay. Now the next thing which in this part of the story only is, what about China's strategy? They talk cultural strategy and all that which I showed earlier. What is that strategy which they have? How can China think that we will ever be okay with them, or they will be ever okay with us? We helped them. We said, okay, China should get entry into UN. Not only get entry into UN, we gave them a seat in the UN Security Council at our own cost. Then this is history. And in return, what did Mao do? He invaded us. Anyway, 60 years later, everyone forgot what happened in 62. So we started the relations after 40 years, 50 years. And then again, they've done what they did in 2020. So is that strategy? Everyone says great strategy. They think far. Is that it? They have angered a nation of over 1.4 billion twice in history. That's very poor strategy. And now they want us. And we are fools to say, no, we'll get technology. That Ananta Nageswara Iswaran, who was the economic advisor, he might be economically great, but I think he's poor otherwise. What about fundamental values? Are Chinese and Indian values compatible with each other? Have you thought of it? We practice democracy. There is a dictatorship. There's communism. Isn't it? What is the fundamental of communism? Monopoly of power. That all power is in one person. And when that person becomes powerful, he becomes powerful and he starts fearing the people. I'll talk of this a little later again. So he wants more power and he continues to gain that power. What is our thing? Ours is a democracy. Ours is a democracy based on multicultural issues. We believe in all religions in India. There's no religion which is bad constitutionally. In our democracy, there is division of power. There's no monopoly of power. And that division of power is based on our executive or legislator and the judiciary. No one becomes greater than the other. And that's the balance in a democracy. Are we going to sacrifice that and give it to these fellows? Why am I telling you this? Because the fundamental aim of communism is to spread a communist world and then grab power, control. That's what Sinocentric world order is all about. They control people. Wherever China has gone and given loans and got them into the debt trap, aren't they controlling those nations? What is our experience with these fellows? They came in 2000 when they entered WTO and things started coming to India. They broke our complete API system. They broke our steel industry. They broke so many things. Okay. And we are now trying to read this thing. And now you want China to come back in? You look at this copper Sterlite factory in Tuticorin. I keep giving this example. What happened in Sterlite? There were many issues. Before Sterlite, we were a net exporter of copper. After Sterlite, we were a net importer of copper. From where? China. We don't make copper now enough for ourselves. That whole story, if you go into it, it is all about China. Right. Now, the next thing is, why should we cooperate with China at this point of time? With whatever has happened with Trump, I think there's an opportunity for India. Relatively, if you see, their tariffs are higher and our tariffs are lower. So, in the relative thing, wherever there is a competitive advantage, we get it. We'll talk of it a little later, and tomorrow I'll deal with it in great detail if we get this thing. So, I think we need to rethink our complete thing of, uh, uh, you know, relationship with China, which is now toying. And now, of course, they'll all come to us. All these fellows will come to us and say, look, let's cut more cake and act against USA. And some of our greedy politicians or greedy businessmen will fall for it. So we have to take steps. We have to ensure everything is on one-to-one basis, 50-50 basis. We have to, if we are going to make deals with China, we have to be very clear as to how we are going to deal with China. We have to ensure that if we import one, they import one. Reduce this trade balance. And now they will be amenable to it. This is the time because they are weak. What Trump has done, now China has to look at alternate markets. Will they get it? Which is the biggest alternate market? India. What Trump has done has put us at an advantage. We should cash in on it with China. I hope our people have the brains to do this. Otherwise, we'll be in a mess. Right? So, this is something which we have to very seriously think of before we go ahead with more cake cutting and all this. This picture which I've shown of 75 years. No, and this is also the opportunity. China is at this point of time very vulnerable. It will give us this leeway to do what we want and progress. And we have to progress sensibly. Okay. Of course, I'll take answers on this a little later. Right? Okay. Now let's talk of Z versus PLA. There's this great thing which is happening within China where Xi Jinping and PLA are at odds with each other. So watch this picture carefully. This is, of course, Xi Jinping. This is Zhang Yugjia. This is He Weidong, who's been sacked now. Okay. This fellow is Li Shangfu, who was sacked 2 years back. And this chap was Miao Hua, who's been sacked since October. So this is actually the CMC, the Central Military Commission. Out of these, who's left? This guy is left, this guy is left, these two are left. That's it. From an original of 7, there are only 4 chaps left. 3 chaps are out of the CMC. And all this has happened over the past 2 years. And more so in the past 6 months. Li Shangfu earlier, now. Why is this happening? All these chaps were handpicked into the CMC in October 22. Is it a problem within the CMC? Or is it a problem between other political forces who are doing all this? Or is it an issue of corruption? Till some time, everyone thought it was corruption. But after October 22, the 20th Party Congress, whatever has happened in PLA is not due to corruption. It is power struggle. And it is important because the PLA, unlike any other department, after the Politburo, not even the Politburo, after the Politburo Standing Committee in China, it is the Central Military Commission which is most important. No ministry is above the Central Military Commission. Okay, that is the highest body is the Standing Committee of the Politburo, then the Central Military Commission, and then the Politburo, and then the rest. So if there's problem here, I'm sure there's problem on top also. And this is what I want to explain to you in this thing. We all know, which I've been discussing with all of you, that China is going through tough times. But this wall, the matrix of this wall, which I keep putting up, military is at the top, and that is having problems. Let me go ahead. Like I said, in the CMC, this chap has been missing for some time now. He Weidong. Miahua was suspended in November. But what has happened after the Miahua was suspended? He was, I believe, put into under interrogation. As part of interrogation, he is given out 1,300 names, 1,300 names, who are, what shall I say, not loyal to Xi Jinping. So that has shaken up everyone. Okay. In this shake-up, a lot of chaps their heads are rolling. And this, they say, it could be due to Jiang Zemin's faction. Jiang Zemin is dead no more. Died a few years last year. But his faction, which is still alive, is fronting it. Jiang Zemin Hujinta faction. But there are a lot of things. But the fact is, today, the PLA leadership is divided and Xi Jinping is against the PLA. Now, interestingly, what has happened is, say, till about a year and a half back, Xi Jinping was at the forefront of capturing Taiwan by force. Yesterday I did this show. No more. He doesn't want to capture Taiwan by force. He wants peaceful reunification. He can't say it. They want to keep talking of unification or forceful unification of Taiwan and making a show of it and all that. But they know heart of hearts they can't do it. So there was an article which came up in one of their internal journals called Kyushi, in which he has said, given the, and mind you, this was planted by Xi Jinping. It was planted by Xi Jinping about the history of China, where he has shown, or rather where he has argued, that whenever the Chinese state went into war, it collapsed. Saying that we don't want to go to war, which means don't go to Taiwan. And this was to counter a few people who want to go to Taiwan because they feel we should take Taiwan before it is too late. I keep saying 2030, 28, 30 to 32, very critical period for China and the world. Okay, China will change character after that. So that group wants to get hold of Taiwan before that. Is it feasible? Not with the kind of force they have now. So let me get ahead with it. Okay, it's not only those 5-6 chaps who've been sacked. Kexin Global is a official Chinese state media website that has put out a whole lot of guys. It says so many people, 14 generals, 20 lieutenant generals, 50 major generals, all gone in 1 dozen years. But 50% of them have gone in the past 5-6 years. That's scary. Okay. And why? And besides this, the PLA has suffered inaccurate missile firings. There was the missiles have taken out and fallen back on the site. It's not only missiles, spaceships also. There's a nuclear sub which has gone down in the docks. Misfired missiles. There was a missile which was fired from somewhere on the east coast and it landed outskirts of Beijing. Now the question is, was it meant to kill Xi Jinping? And actually after that, if you see in time, a lot of things have happened after that. In fact, they scotched that rumor completely. And of course, plans, like I told you, plans for capture of Taiwan or invasion or and whatever you call it have not gone straight. Now, it's not only PLA sackings, state-owned enterprises, engineers, scientists, gone. In fact, 26 top top serving and former SOE CEOs are under purge. Even 3-4 days back, I saw. I can give a list, big list, but this is all factual. This is actually published. There are 5-6 universities which are associated with defense research which have been banned. Things are bad. Okay, let's be very clear. And this is all published in Chinese media. What is not published, we don't know. Like I said, this is the standing committee, Politburo standing committee. Which of them is loyal to Xi Jinping, one doesn't know. Li Qiang, who's the vice premier, is loyal because he came up only to become the vice premier just because of his loyalty. He was in Shanghai during COVID. He made a mess of Shanghai. He was expected to be sacked. But because of loyalty, he came up. And then this chap, Sai Chi. Sai Chi is supposed to be his personal secretary. So he's been put in the Politburo Standing Committee. These two chaps are loyal. And then this chap, Wang Yuning. Wang Yuning is a survivor. He is served in all suspect. He's got his own ambitions. He's a historical character. Who maintains the history of China. And he served with Zhang Zemin, Hu Jintao, and everyone. A lot of people suspect him. The others, one doesn't know, to be very honest. Okay. So, is the issue between Xi and PLA gone into the Politburo and everything is being played around? That Wang Yuning is a propagandist. People are scared to take him out. Is he the next Xi Jinping? Okay, is he getting pushed by others? So there's some factionalism in the Politburo also. Right? All this is adding up to the story. Now, if you go into a timeline, right? I'll show the complete timeline. Right? You go into the timeline, a lot of issues have happened. And one major issue is this. Here, 2 years back, 1.5 years back, there were some strict rules put into place by Xi Jinping, where all these chaps could not even, speak to the media. How retired officers will interact with the media and all that was very, very, very in great detail put. How they will behave socially was also put out. But that didn't help, because what happened was, here, in 1 year later, he had to hold a political work conference. And this political work conference I have always held is one of the most important conferences which many people have missed. And we'll talk of it. And then, of course, a whole lot of guys have gone, and those figures we can keep talking of. Now, in this process, if you see, there are 3 ministers of defense, 3 CMC members who've been sacked. All these chaps have gone, whether it is Wei Fenghe, Li Shangfu, or Dong Yun. Dong Yun is under a cloud. And I'll talk of Dong Yun a little more, who's now, the head of PLA. All these guys, 2 are definitely sacked, and Dong Yun, though he appears in public, he's still under a cloud. 3 CMC members, all this in the past 1 year, 2 years. And then, of course, we are talking of former ministers, talking of the PLARF, wholesale. PLARF to bada lamba list hai. You see this, whole lot of guys. PLA Air Force, former commanders, gone. Deputy commanders, gone. Then former Southern Theatre commander, gone. Eastern Theatre commander, gone. PLA commander of PLA's Southern Navy is also taken off. Okay, special strategic force. Okay, the strategic support force, their commander and former deputy commander were sacked. It was only after that he had to break this strategic support force. That was done last year. It came out as if he is doing a great thing by putting up an information support force, but actually it was part of the strategic support force. The strategic support force became too big and too deadly against Xi Jinping, so he broke it, and that fellow is gone. So if you see this thing, it's huge. It's not funny at all. Okay, and this is the conference I was talking of. If you see these tabs, this is Xi Jinping. Okay, this is He Dong, Zhang Yuxia. Now he called this meeting. Okay, and there he wants prepare for a civil war, Ekto. And then he calls it at a place where Mao held this such a meeting. During when Mao was in chair, he had problems with the PLA. So he went and he took them, all these PLA chaps of that time, to a place called Guite. Guite was the revolutionary base in the Long March. And he gave them a ML and jo bhi baat kiya hai. So Xi Jinping took them back there now. And Xi Jinping did this. This is the second time he's doing. 10 years back, he took them there and gave them. And then what all he did, there's a museum of sorts there. He went, took them to the museum. All these fellows, museum ka chakkar lagaya, और उनको भाषण मिला. Keep in line. And then all these commanders were all brought. All commanders were brought and given a bhashan. And despite this, 1 year later, you find people getting sacked. After that, also they've been sacking. It's continuing. There's no full stop anywhere. Okay. At that meeting itself, there were indications. The defense minister Yong incidentally was missing in that meeting. And right, ये देखो, ये दोनों, this chap is Mia Hua. He was sacked in November, and this chap He Dong earlier this month. And how Mia Hua's revelations will affect the PLA, one doesn't know. All this is happening when Trump has taken off. Please understand, nothing is happening in isolation. That is why I say, in fact, even General Rajiv Narayanan talks that complete China is in a fix. It's in a poor state at this point of time. Internally, their economy is not working. Their PLA is not in good fettle, right? And externally, they're having global headwinds. And on top of all this, there's this tariff war. That makes a very unstable state. And that is something we have to understand, the instability within China. And we need to, in this context, we have to understand how many dealings you can do with China. Also, we need to understand that they've gone belligerent around Taiwan and Philippines and Australia in the last few days. They don't cross and come into Indian Ocean region and misbehave. Because they can't. Why can't they do it? There are good 4-5 instances where the Chinese vessels have been hijacked by Somalian pirates. And these chaps have gone, they've quietly gone and paid ransom and brought them out. There are cases in Niger where people have been caught and kicked out. So outside that area, they're behaving differently. Within Pacific, they're belligerent. With USA, they seem belligerent. They want to become friends with India. And they want to ensure that India doesn't align with USA. All this I keep repeating because ये बेजे में पढ़ना है हमें. So we are looking at a very, 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 very unstable state. It might be rich, and you must remember China is a rich state with poor people. Any rich state with poor people will tend to be unstable, and especially when they have this kind of a thing. So there is an issue which we have to take care of. Okay, now I'll talk of our PM's message to the eunuch. I keep calling him eunuch. Professor Yunus nahi hai, wo eunuch hai. Right? So this photograph is a photograph which Yunus gave to our Prime Minister of the time when our Prime Minister gave him a present, some ceremony, gave him a medal or something. So he's come to say, यार हम तो दोस्त हैं. इतना बोलने के बाद now he's trying. Is a typical foolish way of trying to make amends to the whole situation. He's vitiated the atmosphere and he's now trying to make amends. I mean, just think where Bangladesh is. I mean, we have to understand. It is bankrupt or nearly so. It is making overtures to China when China itself is in great problems. And China won't have the time to Bangladesh for many reasons. They will exploit Bangladesh but will not help Bangladesh. Okay. And this man is talking all nonsense all over the countryside. USA has given up on him and tariffs have fallen on their head. They are in a tight spot. Suddenly he is changing his plate with our Prime Minister. They met during BIMSTEC 2 days back. And certain things have happened, so we'll discuss that and understand that. Okay. This is, of course, what I've said. That now, what is the crux of our Prime Minister's message to Bangladesh and to the eunuch? He said cooperation between, he's reminded them that look, India and Bangladesh have cooperated with each other and they have benefited each other. Not from now, from long back. India supports a democratic, stable, peaceful, progressive, and inclusive Bangladesh. Not an exclusive Bangladesh, not an undemocratic Bangladesh. That is the implicit message in what Prime Minister said. And then, of course, he's talk of stability, peaceful, and progressive, not regressive. See, in such thing, you have to see what has been not said than what has been said. Then he's made a very pointed saying that, look, just shut up and don't talk too much about the Seven Sisters and all that nonsense. He's very clearly said rhetoric vitiates the environment, is best avoided. It's a direct rebuke of Professor Yunus. And then he said he'll impose strict enforcement of the law and prevention of illegal border crossings, especially at night. And these are necessary for maintaining border security and stability, which Bangladesh doesn't want to happen. Okay. And then very strongly he has said India has concerns related to the safety and security of minorities in Bangladesh, including Hindus, and he has expressed this expectation. This is the word, expectation. He expects Bangladesh to ensure security of Hindus and also to carry out investigations on the cases of atrocities committed against them, including minorities. This is an expectation. Bhai jaake karo ye kaam. So people will say, yaar ye hoga nahi, ye wo, all that. So let's see how it's going to happen. Of course, they have said attacks on minorities are hugely inflated. So he said you can send someone to check. I think we should do it. We should send a fact-finding team. We should send a parliamentary committee. Go and check. Interact with Bangladeshi Hindus one-to-one. This is what their media has reported, that Yunus has told Modi, attacks on minorities hugely inflated, mostly fake news. So you come and check it out. So let's check it out. ये तो बोल रहा है मैं आके भेजो. So let's send the parliamentary committee. They can go and interact with Hindus. They can go and interact with Buddhists. They can go to all places in Bangladesh and get the situation. I think it's a golden opportunity. इसके बारे में तो हम बात ही नहीं करते हैं, isn't it? So that's the first thing. Okay, then of course, uh, Dr. Shankar has given a very good message. This was before this meeting. He said, if you keep blaming India for everything and then expect India to behave with you, it's not possible. So all these Bangladeshis who come and troll me, if they think that after that India will help them, they are living in La La Land. Bewkoof hai. That won't happen, no? Okay. And then in many of their newspapers, he says, don't shake off the threat of earthquake. Earthquake, if it has happened in Myanmar, can happen in Bangladesh tomorrow. Then what happens? Will China come and help them? Who will help them? Even now, who has helped Myanmar? And if you see the statement between the Myanmar army chief, whom our prime minister met, and the statement which has come out, and his acknowledgement is that India has been the first responder, not China. India has been the first responder. So who will be the first responder for Bangladesh? We will not even be first responder. We will be zero-time responder. No one else can come close. So they have to be thinking कि भैया ये हम कहाँ खड़े हैं? Will India help us at the right time or not? If we misbehave with them. So all Bangladeshis have to rethink. Okay. And of course, this chap is on a game of his own. He's not only playing with this chap, he's also gone to Pakistan, all that. I think after yesterday, what our Prime Minister has said, I think hopefully he should have some sense, and we should send a team and rebuild relations. Our good thing we should understand is we should rebuild relations. And we should insist on this. You see, what has happened is there's this lady, right? Tanya Amir, who's a Supreme Court lawyer of Bangladesh. She has gone to Geneva and given a statement. And I want you to listen to the statement on what she has said. And then you'll get an idea. Look at it.
Subsequent to 5th August, the rampage that went on in a meticulous, systematic manner. Over 450 police stations were burned to ashes. Police officers were killed, along with human rights activists, along with members of the opposition, secular progressive people and institutions, buildings, which are symbols of the birth of Bangladesh, our Mukti Juddha, our history, our heritage. And these deaths that occurred, these are police officers on duty, members of law enforcement agencies. The signature of the killing, their bodies were slashed and hung upside down, necks were severed from the body, along with ISIS flags being flown across Bangladesh. As Bengalis, as Bangladeshis, we are not familiar with this. This type of killing, where bodies are burnt, butchered like animals, even animals we don't kill like this anymore. We are humane in the way how animals are killed, and the way how the bodies were hung from bridges and so on. That is where the indemnity has been given by Dr. Yunus's government, that we will not investigate these killings. These are officers, most of them. Their police stations burned, they were on duty. In any other country, when an officer is killed during their duty, they are considered national heroes. And in Bangladesh, we decided not to investigate them. How can any legitimate government do something like that?
So Look at what she says. ISIS, killings, hanging upside down, severing of necks, all this has happened. These are crimes against humanity. So when the Professor Yunus says, send a fact-finding team, we should send. And this is not an Indian. Na? This is a Bangladesh lady, a lawyer in their Supreme Court, going internationally and telling to people of what's happening there. Is there a case for us to instigate an investigation by international agencies at the UN? If a UN commission can go into, Xinjiang and carry out investigation whether there are, whether there is genocide happening in Xinjiang by Chinese, why can't we do it here? Why can't we ask for it? India should ask for it because genocide has happened. And they claim that, Sheikh Hasina has done genocide and all. Maybe if she's done genocide, take her to task. But definitely, if you go by even 15% of what this lady is saying, there is genocide in what happened in Bangladesh. And it should be investigated because Bangladesh won't investigate. And that is one of what our Prime Minister also wanted, isn't it? See, he said investigation. He says government of Bangladesh would ensure the security, including by thoroughly investigating cases of atrocities. So let's ask for an international arbitration on this. Right? So that's important. The next thing is this Tista project. See, this Tista thing didn't come up in, the discussion. But let me explain the Tista project to all of you so that you have an understanding what this Tista project is. See, this is Tista River, which goes, and this black line is the border. Okay. This Tista River goes down. Now, Tista River, when it goes into the floodplain, it exits from the mountains, right, of Sikkim, and it gets into North Bengal. It spreads out, and it goes in multiple channels, and those channels are not controlled, right? That water is of no use. So what has happened is over the years we have somewhere in this place near Jalpaiguri, somewhere here where I put my pointer now, we have a barrage out there with which we take water and give it to Kuch Bihar, Jalpaiguri, and all those districts, many districts there. Okay, and then water goes down, and they have a barrage out here. But even after that barrage, they are not able to do much. They have a problem. There's no doubt about it. And this river, as you can see here, widens out. And when the river widens out, that the water is uncontrolled, they're not able to use it and goes into Brahmaputra and end of story. And when in rainy season, it creates floods. In non-rainy season and summer, it flows in thin rivulets where you can't use the water. And all this area north in the Rangpur area, it depends on Tista. There's no doubt. And there's a River Water Commission which was there from long, where they said 39% to them, 39% to us, and 25% is uncommitted, something like that. 22% is uncommitted. There are issues, all that. But now what they want to do, what Bangladeshis want to do is they want to expand this barrage and do this river management here. And this is they're trying to give it to China, this project. And how far is this from our border? Just next door. Just see from here to here. This is the border. How can we have Chinese people there? And they didn't tell us where before started negotiation with China. Incidentally, this problem is not new, right? This problem is not new because Sheikh Hasina started negotiating with China. When we came to know, we put our foot down. Then Sheikh Hasina said, no, we will not go ahead with the Chinese. Chinese will not do anything because this is too sensitive. But now this fellow started again. So if he started again, he should know what is the red line. You forget about river water sharing. You can't have this chap in the Siliguri corridor. This is all part of the Sirigul corridor. You can't have a Chinese thing there. And there's also news that they're looking for an airfield here. So I'm sure he has been told in some manner, other than the normal briefing में जो आया है, but I'm sure that he's been told otherwise also कि भाई where what has to be done and not done. But Bangladesh problem is compounded not by all this. Bangladesh problem is compounded by this man, Trump ji, and his tariffs. See what has happened in that. We should know this, right? First and foremost, let's also understand and know that US aid is cut off. पैसा नहीं मिलता है इनको. चाइना वाले के पास पैसा है नहीं देने के लिए. वो तो बोलेगा अभी, बट देगा नहीं. कहाँ जाएगा ये? और तो और ये देखिए. See, he wants to go and sit with China. Now, see the foolishness which is going to happen now, and why Bangladesh will be thinking, has to rethink and come back to India. And I'll go back to the Prime Minister's what he said and link it up. Right. Before I go ahead with this logic, let me show you what the Prime Minister said. Okay, what has the Prime Minister said? Cooperation between two countries has brought tangible benefits to the people. So you need cooperation. So you need to take each other along. If they cooperate with us, they benefit. Okay, why they benefit? Okay, see, they are now going. This is Bangladesh. Bangladesh has been imposed 37% tariff by Trump. They are friendly with China. China has been given 34% plus another 54%. It's got the highest tariff. India is at 27%. Relatively, we are at the lowest. Internationally, everyone is now coming to India. Already the move has started. It's not 24 hours. People have started coming towards India for garments. Okay? कहते garment इधर से करो. बांग्लादेश का biggest produce क्या है? Garments. If they export garments from US, from there to USA, they have to pay 37% tariff. You see the fun? They want to cooperate with China. Oh, Professor Yunus ne bola, you go and manufacture, you can come and manufacture here and export it back here, export it to the world. Or we'll come and manufacture there. So all that English which he spoke, what's the result of that? If you want, I can show you the clip. You come and manufacture here, I can manufacture there. There's electricity in Bhutan, Nepal, we'll get it. Seven sisters, locked up, all that nonsense which you spoke. Now see the fun. China is a producing nation, not a consuming nation. They have to export. Bangladesh can't consume. They have to export. Otherwise, they've done. Both want to export with this kind of tariffs. To whom? To USA. Who will take it? Can Bangladesh think of sending goods to USA through China? Out of question. Can they do it on their own? They can't. US said, hey, nahi. Where do they go? India. And if we get into an agreement with the trade agreement with USA on all these issues, then they can benefit. So the moral of the story here for Bangladesh is they have to start mending their fences with India very fast. If they're not, if they insist on going to China, they can go to China. We have no problem. But if they do Teesta River Bank or give airfield and all, I think then it'll be time for some military action. What kind of military action? I don't have to say. That I'm sure people will decide. Should I say military action or strong action? You take it whichever way you want. But Bangladesh should understand it's no more going to be, happiness hereafter. They are in a bad situation. They better amend their ways, okay, and be very clear that what is our message to them. That message, if you see it in the light of what I have explained, is pretty strong, and they need to take it. Okay. Now let me see what he says. Sir, these Bangladeshis are foolish. They don't know. जो भी बोला बोला चाहिए तो शाम तक ही रह गया गया ये views. I agree with you. You know, people, they don't have any vision. They just don't have any vision. Yeah, look at Philippines. Its president, is ex-president, is arrested and charged with war crimes and crime against humanity. Who is behind this and why is this happening? He might be corrupt. Definitely is patriotic. Yeah, that's what will happen. That will what happen to might happen to Yunus, or then he might be let off because of his advanced age. Okay, but I think there's a problem coming up. Right now, let me take more questions. Uh, what can China achieve by sitting in Teesta River? Please look into it. See, the point is the moment. Okay, you got asked another question, but how can China sitting in Siliguri attack India? It's not a matter of attacking India, but if certain army people are put in here, okay, and on a long-term basis, they can exploit vulnerabilities in this area. The chicken neck from the south also there is China, and the north also there is China. So we'll be in a bit of a quandary, and that too so near the border. We also have to understand that belt is the tea belt, and then in the tea belt, a lot of communism has flown into that area through Nepal earlier, and that's a troublesome area. I've been there. I've lived a lot of time there. Okay, and there you have these communists loafing around in Bangladesh with the porous border. Not good by any stretch of imagination. Forget the military part. Military part they can support from here slowly. And if they put their air force there, which they're seeking an air base, is some social media accounts and whatever that grey media you call it, whatever, if those are right, it's that place Lalmoni Ghat. Then we have to seriously rethink of the whole story. You can't have a Chinese airbase sitting in Bangladesh. Should we call it East Pakistan? Is it possible to dig deep trenches between India and Bangladesh? Pakistan just do it once and yeah, we'll have to do something. I'm sure will something will happen, right? Uh, yeah, I insist that we take back Rangpur and territories around and Chittagong. See, at this point of time, we don't have to do anything. We should give them good notice, okay, what our intentions are in unambiguous terms. I think the Prime Minister has given that. And how things will happen further, let's see. It's not a thing which we, right? Yeah. China has given us many things: Maoists, Naxalite, CPIM, Wuhan, Chinese virus, pandemic, Shaksgam Valley, loot, 62 or 6. I agree with you completely, Aksh. And this is something, all our people sitting wherever they are should understand this. Is it feasible that Xi is afraid if any military action is signed and it could be seen as a trick to attack Xi Jinping? It could hit him as a boomerang. That is why ransom was. No, yeah, many things are involved, but it essentially means that look, the Chinese can't go. It's not a strong military force that they can go and fight elsewhere and do strong actions. They're weak militarily. All these indicate that they are weak. Yeah, even America is having problems with sourcing materials and components. That's the reason Americans are going. Possible. I go with you completely. Okay. In the light of the logic of my earlier question, while our politicians, corporates, and bureaucrats cut the cakes with Chinese, the Chinese shall stab us in the back just like it was in 1962. I completely agree with you, and I'll include this question in the final analysis. Yeah. 1 minute. I'll call you in
Yeah.
5 minutes. I'm online.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry. Sir, Baluchistan has less population. Someone like Marang Baluch still expects justice from Pakistan. China is sending private army. What will happen? Why are we not helping them? Thanks. Okay. Uh, I've been doing a lot of, you know, programs on Baluchistan. I don't think we should presume that India is not doing enough. India must be doing enough, but so far nothing much has come. I have not spoken of this anywhere, but let me give my thought. My thinking is the external force might come from Oman. Oman doesn't like Pakistan, and Oman has got a lot of Baluch people. And Oman owned the Makran coast before it was given from Oman to Pakistan. So we don't have to help uh, Baluch people directly. Oman can do that. As I keep thinking, it occurs to me more that Oman is helping them. Okay, and Oman is rich. So that much for external thing. China sending private army. China not sent private army into Baluchistan. They've deployed some people in Tarparkar, in the Sindh area for coal or coal mines or something like that, which are being operated by Chinese, where there's no threat to them. They are now basic guards. The true worth of these chaps will know when there's an attack on them. Okay. Marang Baluch and the Baluch people cannot expect any justice from Pakistan. So that will go on. Like we said, I see that going on as a long, low level civil war. Unless something drastic happens, there's no solution. And Pakistan, the way it is, will not give a solution. So it's not an easy thing. And we can't give direct assistance to them because of the separation. We can give indirect. But if Oman steps to the uh, you know point, then this will get sorted out. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, Sridhar Kesi Reddy. After a long time, you are appearing. I think India is not taking reasonable advantage of global situations externally and internally to set things right in the right order. Your points, please. I agree with you to a large extent. I mean, at the same time, let me give it to the government. They're trying their best. The problem with the government is our diplomacy is weak. Our diplomacy is weak not because the diplomats are weak, because their overall strength is weak. And today, diplomacy is only being conducted by two people in the government of India. One is the Prime Minister, and the other is the External Affairs Minister. The others are not doing diplomacy. There are a whole lot of things we can do because we need to diplomatically secure the Middle East. We need to secure our neighborhood diplomatically. And diplomacy is not a matter of just external affairs. Diplomacy is a matter of people to people contact, military diplomacy, commercial diplomacy, and then, of course, the classic diplomacy. I think we need to do more. And when you do that more, we will be able to exploit external and internal situations to our advantage. If China doesn't attack Taiwan, then for externalization of their internal distress, they would logically attack our northern front. I don't think so. I think that season is over. Okay. Yeah, your assessments about China have a lot of discrepancies. You don't understand how much control China has on raw materials and components required to become an industrial power. Look into titanium. Now I understand that. I did a lot of research for titanium for your information. Okay. I did 6 months research just on titanium. Who controls, how the market is controlled and everything. I understand quite a bit, but many of these controls start slipping. when the political scene changes. Okay, I brought the titanium gun into India. Okay, and there are a lot of our things which are happening in titanium, and people consult me on this incidentally. So I know what you're talking of, and I'm into research. Incidentally, please, this is my strong point. I know exactly what I'm talking of. I also understand the kind of control which China has on certain resources. But I also understand that China can lose its resources. China doesn't have its own resources, it has control of resources. If the geopolitics change, the control might go. You have to understand that. To sustain manufacturing employment of Chinese people, the Chinese will bribe greedy Indian politicians and businessmen who are ready to sell their countries for a few $1 billion. I completely agree with you. That is my worry. That's why I keep repeating these things about China. Not because many people are coming to watch my videos, but more to get this message across. Whoever, and if this message goes across through your channels, I mean, when I say your channels, through your environments, wherever you exist, somewhere someone will listen. Yeah, since 1970s, Kissinger shipped manufacturing to China and sanctioned India severely for 40 years. The dragon never came forward to tango with the elephant. No, Abhi, he's sick. It's a sick dragon. So he wants to come. And we are strong. We are going up and we will not go back. That is why he's coming. And we should be very clear as to how to behave with them. Shopkeepers tend to source their offering at the lower price. It is for politicians, corporate, and bureaucrats to break out of this shopkeeper mindset. I agree with you 100%. Is the idea of war getting obsolete because of human rights, and that's why we will never get our territory back on both sides? Too early. War is not obsolete. See what's happening in Gaza, Palestine, Stasia. See what's happening in Ukraine. See what's happening in South China Sea. There's a war going on there also. The face of war has changed. That's all. So don't be in a hurry. We will get our territory back one fine day. I have no doubt about it. My, we have to make a move around 2030. That's my thing. Yeah, China and India are extremely opposite to each other in every respect. We don't share any value. I 100% agree with you. That is why we need to be very careful when we deal with them. And this cake cutting and all is okay, but when it comes to brass tacks, we've had some bad experiences. We need to deal with them very, very, very carefully. Namaskar, Shrutiji. Thanks a lot for attending. Okay, the Chinese were taught Kung Fu, meditation, Dhyan became Chechen, and then Zen, Buddhist philosophy, and other historic uh, teachings by an Indian prince by name Bodhidharma. I agree with you. That is why they don't have any culture which they have given us. Yet they feel that we have to take their civilization initiative. The day we can start thinking of that, remember they'll destroy us. I normally don't talk of civilization, but this time I have spoken of it. Does our education system teach us the reality, especially in history, than what? Yeah, we don't. Unfortunately, Amitesh, there's a problem with us. We don't teach our own history well. If there is any culture, civilization, or history in China, it is based and rooted mostly on Bharat and Buddhism. I agree with you. Before then, they were probably dispersed tribal communities. They had their Shintoism, Taoism, Confucianism going through in a fractured manner. All that has vanished now in the name of communism. Oh, thanks a lot. It's me thinking for becoming a YouTube member. You upgraded yourself, so honored. Also, Krishna, thanks a lot for gifting 5 memberships to people. So honored. I hope those people whom you gifted memberships, renew their memberships. That's my request to all of them. It's okay to get a membership on a gift, but you must continue with it because, like I said, it's for a noble cause. Okay, I think I've come to the end of. Yeah, can't agree with you more on our diplomacy. It is being controlled by the PM and EAM. It shouldn't be person centric, and also our diplomatic strength must increase. Completely I agree with you. That's my view that I have expressed publicly in all places. Right? Sir, looking at the past and present, one should never trust jihadis and Chinese. Trusting them will be worse than suicide. Both these are completely devoid of logic, sensibility, and human values. I will not say that devoid of logic, they have their own logic. They do have their own sensibility, and their human values are far different from us. So we have to be very, very, very careful about what we are doing now. Like I said, it's easy to cut cakes, but we need to be very careful about what all we are doing. Salute, sir. News is that US is asking Bangladesh army to intervene in the fight between Arakan army and Janta. Your views? I have not seen the news. Let me see, but I don't think US will do this mistake. I mean, let me see. You might be right. Let me see the news and then I will talk. Okay. 37 become lower later under 20%. Jai Bangla. Do you think you are living in Ladi? You are a bigger idiot than I have ever thought. Yeah. जॉय बांग्ला एक चीज मैं बताता हूं आपको आप बांग्लादेश से हो हमें पता है अगर आप सोचते हो कि आप बहुत बड़े आदमी हो नहीं हो आप एक छोटा देश हो द कंप्लीट टेरिटरी ऑफ बांग्लादेश इज लाइक वन स्टेट ऑफ इंडिया द फैक्ट दैट वी गिव यू रेस्पेक्ट एज अ कंट्री यू शुड बी हैप्पी एंड वी वांट टू टेक केयर ऑफ यू वी वांट टू टेक you along with us to prosperity and that's what we did. We didn't interfere with what you people did internally, what Sheikh Hasina did internally. You say Sheikh Hasina did genocide, but your own Supreme Court lawyer goes to Switzerland and says there's genocide. Done now more than what it was done earlier. So all of your people are in a damn same boat. So we took you along externally as in people. You were happy. Now you are gone. You want to come back, we'll accept you. But the terms and conditions are different now. That's all. Namaskar. Thanks a lot. Yeah. 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 Okay. Finally, no, I've always responded to you, Amitesh. There's no doubt. I like your different way of thinking. Okay. Right. Thanks a lot, folks, for joining me in. I know too many people have not joined because this the time is like that. But I'll split this into three. It's constituent three parts and be putting it out to you. Maybe then you can push it out to everyone. In the meanwhile, do subscribe to Ghana Shot and spread the word around. And do I request more of you to join me as members. Till then, thank you. Good afternoon and Jai Hind.